And I always like to start these by giving a little bit of qualifications, because you're all saying, well, who's Brad and why should I even pay attention to him? And so I'd say my biggest membership qualification is that I have been part of the team that's working electronic membership since it started. I was part of the group that evaluated the initial proposals and helped choose our vendor and develop the system. So from the totem side of this, I'm probably the most qualified person we have in the state to talk about the electronic membership. With regards to membership, I've been involved in membership. I was a council membership chair way back when. I've been involved in membership committees, and I'm currently on the California State PTA membership commission or committee. I can never remember what it is. But the good news is one of our assistants that I've got on the call here is Michael Morgan, our past president, past vice president of membership, and our current California State PTA vice president of membership. So he is even more qualified than I am to be giving this session. So when you ask a question and it gets answered by Michael, you know that it's a better answer than I would have given you.
Wow, no pressure.
And there we go, advancing the slides. I'm going to go over a little bit about what we're going to learn today. The first thing I want to do is I want to be explaining why membership is of importance to PTA. The quick version is we are a membership organization. Without members, everything else we do doesn't count. We do great advocacy. We do a lot of other really good things. But if we don't have members, then it doesn't matter. So we are membership. I also want to talk to you guys a little bit about what your role as a membership chairman is. I'll get into some details and give you some hints and tips and ideas and things like that. I will also talk about setting goals, creating a membership marketing plan. What I learned when I got certified for scuba diving was if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, because if you have a problem scuba diving, you could die. Membership isn't life or death, but from the state of PTA, it kind of is. Like I said, without members, we're not PTA. So if you can come up with a plan, then you know what you're going to do and you're going to execute. And finally, I'm going to talk about tools and resources that we have to help you succeed. There's awards, perks, membership incentives, but the biggest tool and resource that you have is the rest of us. It's not just asking me questions, but it's also asking your peers questions. There's, as Michael likes to say, you know, I don't have all the answers. I don't come up with all the ideas. I like to steal really good ideas that I see from other people. So talk to your peers, find out what they're doing and ask them questions as well, because you may find that there's another school out there that is doing something that I don't know about that works really well for you. So why is membership important? Before we get into the meat of the PTA, let's take a minute and look at why we're doing this and why membership is so important. PTA is a membership-based organization and the oldest and largest non-profit child advocacy group in the United States. Think about that for a second. It's not just that, you know, we are PTA and we're all these volunteers and we all do all these great things. We've been around for 120, I don't remember now, I don't have it written down, 120 something years. We've been a unified group, which means it's no longer multiple groups where it was the Council of Mothers as well as the Colored Council, which of course is the old word that people use, but we are fully integrated. It's the 50th year for the PTA to be a unified PTA as opposed to a different group depending on what group you might have belonged to as a parent, your background. We are also funded by membership. So what that means is your membership money supports your unit, your council, your district, the state, as well as national PTA. Now, councils, districts, the state and national don't really fundraise. They're not, a unit the same way that you guys are. They don't hold events that say, oh, come here and donate and do this. They get donations because they can still solicit donations, but fundraising really isn't part of what they do. It's also why when a member buys a membership, they become a member at all levels. So a member at your unit is a national PTA member, and that gives national PTA power, it gives the state PTA power, and it gives our regional areas power. When we go off and we advocate, it used to be, we would say, I represent 1 million PTA members. Now it's, I represent 700 plus thousand PTA members. But the same thing goes if you are in your community. Maybe you're representing 10,000 PTA members when you go and talk to your city or your legislator about things. So there's power in those numbers. All right, so setting membership goals. It's pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to spend some time on that later. The next thing you want to do is you need to create and implement a membership plan. What are your goals? What is your plan to reach those goals? So you come up with a goal and how you're going to get there. And if you hit that, you're not done. Don't think about, okay, I hit my numbers, I'm good. All that means is you're good. Keep going, come up with a new goal, and come up with a new plan. How am I going to get there? Because we're always looking to better ourselves. So promoting membership throughout the year is important. Obviously now is a big time up through September. PTA, we do see our numbers peak in the September, October timeframe, but it is a year-round issue. We want to be promoting membership all year. If you run into somebody in February, you don't say, oh, yeah, you should join PTA next year. It's like, if you're not a member of the PTA, you should join. If you're talking with your city council, you're talking with your state assembly member or your senator or anything like that, ask them, are you a member of our PTA? These guys have to run for re-election at some point in the future. It doesn't hurt to ask them, and you can quite often get them to join your PTA. So it's something that happens because we're not, it's not just a parent thing, it's parents and everybody else. The next thing is your budget. You need to come up with a membership budget. Remember, we've got our goal, we've got our plan. How do we get there? If your plan involves a banner with a QR code that you're going to put in front of the school telling people, scan this and join us online, well, that banner is going to cost money. So come up with what your budget's going to be for the year. Maybe you've got prizes, anything like that. Next up is your big responsibility is collecting the dues and verifying what we call the per capita. In the toolkit, we talk about per capita, which is basically the money that goes up the chain. In your unit, you keep whatever is left. If your membership is $10, you're going to have 50 cents going to your council, 50 cents going to your district, $2 going to the state, $2.25 going to national, whatever the numbers are for you. If you're out of council, it's a different number. In 33rd District, we have some out of council units. So it's 75 cents goes to 33rd District. So know what those numbers are, keep track of that, and work with your treasurer to make sure that money is indeed remitted to council if you're in council or district. Create a membership list. Members are allowed to vote in meetings. If you're not a member, you shouldn't be voting at the election. You shouldn't be voting on the budget. You shouldn't be voting on what your PTA does. How do you know who's a member? Membership chair has a list. When I was membership chair, I had an Excel spreadsheet and it had everything. It wasn't just the names. I had the names and the email addresses, and if they were interested in volunteering as a room parent or anything else. It was a 20-column Excel file. All you need is a list. It doesn't have to be fancy. It can be a list of all the members. If you have it electronic, it makes it a lot easier to find them. If you're at a unit with hundreds of members and somebody says, am I a member? It's a lot easier to go search online, boom, there's your name. Yes, you're a member. If it's a piece of paper, you have to flip through a bunch of pages. I've done that before, but don't have a shoebox full of receipts. I've seen that. Don't do that. It is hard to do it that way. Don't make your job any harder. You want to make your job as easy as possible. And then finally, distributing membership cards. Now, you don't have to actually distribute a membership card to people that join through the Totem electronic membership system, because they get a membership card that they can keep on their phone. So that was actually one of the worst things, was at the elementary school, when you got a couple hundred people joining over the course of an hour, you couldn't get all the cards done. So it's like, I'll get you your cards and we'll send them to your kids' room, and the kids will bring the cards home for you. So you'd go back and you'd get a cramp in your hand as you're writing all the membership cards. Invariably, some of the cards get lost. It's so much easier with Totem when your cards are on your phone. It's just, you join, you got your card, immediately you're done. You don't have to worry about that. But if people want a paper card and they joined electronically and you have enough cards, write a card for them. It's not a big deal to have a second card for the person. Only one person votes, though. You know, if somebody joins and I say, I want to join for me and my fish and my child and my husband, and they end up with 4 cards, that one person doesn't get 1 vote or 4 votes. They get only 1 vote. And then question that I usually would ask people here is, does anybody know what the membership year is for the state PTA? It's too hard to do this through Zoom, so I will tell you. The membership year is our fiscal year, July 1st through June 30th. So the membership technically ends June 30th. However, the membership doesn't expire until October 31st. We have that grace period to allow people to vote in the first couple of meetings of the year, because you're going to come back in September, sometimes August, have your first meeting, August, September. You got to set your budget. Well, people haven't joined yet, you got a problem. So we've given a grace period till October 31st. All right, so let's look at the first step of setting membership goals. Where are you? You know, where do you want to go? What is your goal? And what are you going to do to get there? So it's hard to come up with where you are unless you know your past membership numbers. I generally will be providing, I did last year and I've got all the numbers now, I'm getting it all together. I will be providing all of the council leaders with your past 5 years, possibly even 6 years membership numbers, because I now have 6 years worth of data, since I gave them 5 years last year and I've got this year's numbers. Council leaders, you're going to have to send that to all of your units. Hopefully, as a membership chair, you can pass this on so you're not depending on us to send it down to you. So know your past numbers, know your trends. It's not just good to know what last year was. If you know your last 5 years, you might see 3 years ago, we had 400 more members than we've been having for the last couple of years. How did we do that? I don't know. Let me go talk to those people, figure it out. That means we have the potential of going there. Maybe you see a certain trend. You're going down every year. What's going on? Why are members not wanting to join? Maybe you're going up every year. That's really good. How do we keep going up? So you want to look at your history. You also need to keep track of your members. Where are you? If you set a goal for 525 members for your PTA, and in your first month you got 100, in your second month you've got 200 new members, in your third month, well, I need to keep going. How am I getting there? What is my trend? I'm a numbers person. I've got spreadsheets for all the PTAs that I've been responsible for, And I compare sometimes on a day-to-day basis, but usually, you know, on a week-to-week, month-to-month basis, how I am comparing to the previous years. So I can look and I can say, I know that I've got another 4 weeks of really strong membership coming based on past behavior, or I've got another month or 2 months, or I know that I'm going to get a blip in January. So knowing how things have worked in the past lets you know how you're doing. And then, of course, knowing who your members are, because you need to know who they are for elections, for meetings, for voting, and all that. The other good thing about this list is these aren't always your current members. If you look at who your past members were, those are people you need to reach out to and say, we know that you are a supporter of our PTA and you believed in us in the past. Would you like to?
Okay, it looks like Brad froze up there for a second, which might be a great time for me to ask him a question once he's unfrozen. So, Brad,
for a lot of it.
Oh, there you go.
I think I'm unfrozen.
You're unfrozen, but before you get off of goals, someone did ask a question about how goals are set for each unit, if you want to cover that.
Sure. There's a couple ways that I use to set goals. Again, you're looking at the past. So based on what we've been doing in the past, how can I make sure that I'm doing something to improve? But we also have contests. So we have a best in 5 contests. So what was my best number in the last 5 years? How do I get one more than that? That's always a really good goal to have. If you've been having issues and last year was a really sucky year, it may be really hard to hit that best in 5 goal. So maybe you want to have an interim goal that you think is something that is realistic for you to get. But there's ways of looking at goals. I kind of look at goals as realistic goals and stretch goals. Kind of want to have both of those. What is a number that I'm confident that I can hit? You know, I'm confident that I can hit, last year we had 528 members. I'm confident I can get to 530, but I would really love to get to 600. So my goal, my initial goal is going to be the low number and the stretch goal is going to be the high number. Michael, do you have other ways that you like to set goals?
So about get lead a little bit your, you know, your school's is probably going to be one of the challenges. So you have to think what you can get accomplished at your particular. May I say, shoot for the moon for Cal State PTA right now? We'll just at least one more member than they got the year before. So it really is, you know, have some school, maybe some students. One particular school, 1 year, a new school opened in our area, lost 70 students. They're like, you know what? We're going to find a way to get more than we did the year before. Just not sure. And it is up to how you're going to do it.
All right. Michael was breaking up for me, so I hope most of you guys understood that. I don't know if it was my computer or Michael's that time, but he can always answer some. Yeah, we'll see what we can do there. It's always fun. You guys are seeing what happens. It's real what happens with technology. So let's see. Other goals, this sort of fits along with the goal setting. I think I talked a little bit about, you know, I like to do monthly goals, sometimes even more granular than that. Sometimes I set it not by the date or by the month. I do it by, for example, the 5 days after the start of school or time after a back to school, if we have a back to school event. But sometimes we have events which are the things that are where we know our members show up. School may start a week earlier or a week later than it did the previous year. So your month numbers might not be as accurate as looking at how do we perform for the week before and the 2 weeks after school starts, things like that. So you look at that. target groups: teachers, parents, students, grandparents, elected representatives, things like that. Set up target groups and see what you can do there. Um, and then, check all those against your goal. Next up is creating and implementing your plan. It is, what are you going to do to reach your membership goal? Before you can create your goal and implement something, you need to know a little bit about the audience you're trying to target. Just like when I'm going to give a presentation, what I would have done if I saw all your faces there, I would have asked you guys a little bit about how many of you are new to membership? How many of you are at a unit? How many of you are at a council? Things like that. So I could get a good idea of my audience, and I would actually change what I say on my slides based on what I've got. If 80% of the people said, oh yeah, this is my second term doing membership, I wouldn't be in the weeds of some of the real basics stuff. And if everybody said, oh, I'm brand new, I would skip some of the more advanced things. I don't see your faces, so I'm just talking as I talk. So you guys are going to get what I think is appropriate for my audience. Same thing for you. You're going to think about what your audience is. And parents are your biggest audience. And so people a lot of times say, oh, I don't want to join the PTA. It's too much time, things like that. So a few years ago, the California State PTA actually conducted a membership survey, and they looked to see why parents don't want to join the PTA, or what makes them join the PTA one way or the other. So their biggest is lack of time. So you have to reinforce, would you like, if that, knowing that, would you like to join the PTA? Your membership supports the PTA in everything we do, and you do not have to spend any time working unless you really want to. Things like that. Parents often feel guilty they don't spend enough time on their children's education. So you can work towards that. Parents, it's sort of the what's in it for me for marketing. Parents' interest is how the school serves their child, which means you can work on how the PTA serves their child. Look at the selfish side of it. The PTA will whatever. And so think about, what is it that the school needs? What is it your PTA provides for kids specifically that you can talk to, that points to them and lets them know how their kids are going to specifically benefit. A lot of times parents that are newer think the teacher is the only person they ever talk to, and everything they learn about the school and the feedback they have is just that teacher. Being the PTA now, it expands that a lot. So you can let them know, being part of the PTA, now you've got more ways of getting feedback, more ways of giving feedback, more ways of being involved without you even spending all that time to be involved, because the PTA is doing that. Obviously, money is always an issue. So parents might think that they're required to donate money or do something like that. So let them know the PTA membership is affordable. If your PTA membership is not affordable, you need to know your audience and figure out why your membership is not affordable. If membership is not a fundraiser, membership is membership. If you need money from that, you get donations, things like that, but you should not have a $50 membership. That becomes a fundraiser. Having your membership in the $10 to $15 range is pretty much the average of what you see along the PTA. I know of at least one unit in California, their membership is $5.25, which means the unit collects zero. All of that money goes to their council, district, and the state. For them, membership is so important that they didn't want to risk charging anything more than the bare minimum for their parents that they know are in financial stress. In other areas, if it's $6, $7, $10, $12, whatever the number works for your members. Again, if your membership numbers aren't good, maybe you're trying to push too hard. $10 is a nice round number. It's probably the most popular number that I've seen in our units, but it is not the answer. And then you have, in certain areas, immigrant families. The recent immigrants don't know what's expected of them in terms of involvement and participation. They may feel intimidated by the school, by the situation, by the PTA. They don't, it's like, who are all these parents and what are they doing? And what, they're all involved. I can't do that because I'm new. So you want to look at the culture of the families that are in your area. Reach out to them, let them know that you want them to be involved, that they have things that they can provide that improve your PTA and make everything better for everybody. But again, if they just, they, for whatever reason, are fearful, say, we would still like you to be a member. Your information is not going to be used for anything. It's not going to be shared outside of our PTA. Maybe they've got worried, they're worried about, the federal government or anything like that, especially in today's world. So you can let them know, we keep everything private. We're going to keep it here. We'd like you to be a member. If they don't want to be a member, anybody says, I don't want to be a member, don't annoy them by saying, but you have to. Give them a couple of arguments. Always have, this is something later on, a little elevator pitch with a couple of arguments. And when you have that, if they don't respond to it, think about what you can use for the next person if it's not working. So what are the perceptions of PTA? The biggest PTA, or the biggest takeaway we got from the survey that the state PTA did, was that parents' image and perceived value of PTA was completely based on the people, programs, and tangible benefits that they see at their own school. We like to talk about how great it is at the state PTA, and we've accomplished this, and we worked on this legislation, and we've got all these great things that we're doing for everybody. But a parent at a school, they don't know any of that, at least not until they're really involved in the PTA. So you, the local PTA leader, are the most important connection people have to PTA. Local leaders are PTA leaders. Did you know that every one of you who are elected into your position are elected officials of the oldest and largest all-volunteer organization that advocates for children and families in the United States? I mentioned it earlier that we are the oldest organization, but think about that. Think about that when you are talking to people, when you're thinking about your own impact. You are an elected official of this old, huge organization that advocates for children and families. Awareness of the state and national PTA is very limited, as I said, because I expect most of you, when you joined the PTA, didn't understand this structure of units, councils, districts, and national PTA. So, it's something that you learn as you get more involved. I think I talked a little bit about before why people don't join the PTA, their concerns about volunteering, having to go to meetings, and of course, being responsible for whatever. One of the tricks in PTA is, a parent complains about something and it's like, oh, great. So would you like to be the new volunteer in charge of whatever that is? That can be that can work against you sometimes, but that is a typical way for PTA to involve people. So the top 3 messages that were identified to get people to overcome these obstacles. By joining PTA, you are supporting valuable programs and services being delivered at your school. We also tell them by joining PTA, you do support your school and students. This is completely separate from any obligation you have to volunteer or make other commitments at your school. And then the last one is your membership pays for itself with tangible member benefits. And I'm going to actually break here and ask Michael, if we can hear him at least, anything new on the member perks front?
So can you hear me a little better now is the first question.
Yes.
Wonderful. I decided to use my phone instead, and we'll bypass the technological difficulties. Much like it's going to be a different kind of year for us, it's also a challenge for a lot of the folks we usually partner with. I will tell you that when the new member perks come out, it will be the smallest member perks probably in at least the last 20 years. Right now, there's Baskin Robbins that is coming this year, and it's pretty obvious why we don't change Robbins. And a lot of our partners that we normally work with are having their own financial difficulties this year. So member perks, a lot of that's probably going to have to be driven at the local level. If there's some businesses in your area that are doing okay and have supported you in the past, this might be an opportunity for you to go back to them and say, you know what, appreciate everything you've done from us before. Maybe if you can't do everything you did last year, is there still something you can do to offer our members a benefit for joining our PTA? Brad, I'll also tell you that one of the questions that came up pretty consistently in the chat was, this is going to be a different kind of year, and we're probably going to have to get real creative on how we can get folks to join our PTA. So I don't know if you want to go back to that and just come up with a couple of thoughts or suggestions. I will say that if you have any kind of online presence or you have a social media platform, this is a great opportunity for you to just keep your message fresh, but also have a meeting with your board and kind of decide, okay, we may not be doing some of the same programs we've normally done in the past. There may not be an in-person talent show. Maybe that this year that switches to a virtual talent show, or some of the other programs that you've done before may be more online driven. But kind of think about some of the things that your PTA is going to still offer to your families this year, and really just promote that everywhere you can, whether it be a message that goes out from your school, or again, posting it anywhere and everywhere that you have a presence, whether it be your social media pages, or if you're using some online membership where you have the ability to email out your members, that's something to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, I think Michael covered most of the things, but don't forget old school, telephone trees. You've got your old list. Hopefully you've got telephone numbers for a lot of these parents. If you need to, pick up that phone and say, okay, we're going to, I've got 10 people. You're each going to call 10 numbers today, 10 numbers tomorrow, 10 numbers next day, and we'll cover, everything we need, whatever it is. Old school works. And at that point, you can let people know. You can go to this, if you've got electronic membership, you can go to this URL and join. You can send a check to this address, whatever it is. Now, sending a check to an address is something that you need to work out with your school sites and possibly your districts. I know of some school districts that take all of the email, all of the mail that shows up for the PTA at all of their schools, and brings it to the district office. So one person can go to the district office once a week and collect all the mail. So you may have to do that. So part of that plan. So obviously, email, phone, social media, everything you have is important, but work your school partnerships. You are a partner with your principal on your school sites. Ask that principal to include call to action to join the PTA in every communication they send out. They're going to be sending out emails. They may have electronic registration for the upper grades. They may have a call that goes out to all the families in their school. So ask them how you can be involved and make sure that the PTA message, the join PTA message, is part of everything that goes out. Now, you may have to remind that principal the value of PTA, the same thing that I'm talking about on this chart that you're looking at. The principal might need to be reminded that the PTA is providing these programs at his school or her school, and that the PTA has donated for whatever it is you've done. Look at your list of things that you've done the last 4 or 5 years, because remember, you're no longer talking to a family that might have been there a short time. That principal may have been there for 5, 10, 15 years. And so if you can show them like everything you've done while they've been there, which goes along to something that's not membership, it's more marketing. If your PTA buys something for the school and donates it to the school, like electronic smart boards, back in the day when we did computer labs, equipment, anything tangible, have a plaque, have those the printable labels, something that says donated by Sunshine PTA, so that the principal is reminded of it, the teachers are reminded of it, parents are reminded of it every time they see that. And every time they see that smart board, every time they walked into the computer lab back when I was, in the elementary level with my daughter, that computer lab, we took 2 years of jogathons to raise enough money to buy all the computers for computer lab. We wanted people to remember every time they walked into that room, that's there because of the PTA. So that's part of that value that parents, but also staff saw. So part of that value is sending, that value proposition is, what is it for the staff, the administration? What are you doing for them? I think I rambled on way longer. So I am going to go on to marketing and promoting the value of the PTA, which is my next chart. For whatever reason, I have to go back in. Okay, there we go. I think I've touched on a lot of this, that the advocacy voice that we have, it's when you talk to one person, you are one person talking, but you can sit there and say, I represent N members, whatever level you are. When you're talking to your principal, it could be, we have 528 members at this PTA, and we whatever. If you're talking to the school board, maybe you've got, 11,275 members. So it's like, I'm speaking for all of my members, and we have X number of members. Think about that. That's what we do at the state level. That's what you should do at the local level. So, the marketing of PTA, it generates awareness, promotes programs, events, campaigns, we influence others, things like that. PTA does have a brand, and remember that branding is part of why you want to make sure that you tell people, like I was talking about with the labels, about what the PTA has done, but also make sure that your branding is consistent in all of your communications, whether it be a paper newsletter, an email, your website, your Twitter page, your Facebook page, your Instagram, all has to have your PTA brand. It's important to remember that when you approach people about PTA, this is sometimes their first exposure to PTA. Therefore, the information that you give them needs to be meaningful. Often people have no idea the PTA history and the work that PTA does. So you want to remind people that things that PTA did was kindergarten, child labor laws, juvenile justice system, school lunches. School lunches is a great story if you know it. That was in partnership with the US military. They were having trouble getting recruits that weren't malnourished. So the PTA partnered with the military in advocating for a school lunch program. It seems kind of odd in today's world that would need to be done, but in the, I believe is in the post-depression era, it was an issue. So PTA has been advocating for, sex education back in 1912. There's a lot of interesting things that PTA has done. We have summarizing sheets that are on the PTA website. We've got brochures there. When I say PTA website, the state PTA website. So remember, capta.org, and just use the search, which is in the top of it, and look for what you've got, what you're interested in. We've got advocacy sections, we've got membership. There's a lot of sections you can go to, but use the search. When you talk to people, you want to encourage your advocates to illustrate with their personal experiences when they talk about what PTA did and what the value was. We also have a bunch of videos. The YouTube channel for state PTA hopefully will be enhanced this year as well. Inclusiveness is huge. Remember, PTA Our motto is all children and families, not your children, not just the children at your school, not just the children of members. It is all children and families. So you want to make sure that you're reaching out to all audiences that we have out there. You can go beyond the school, strengthen what the PTA membership numbers do, relationships with the community, maybe even your volunteers. You want to create an inviting environment for all diversities, form respectful and trusting relationships. Look around at your PTA. Does it represent your whole community? I can almost guarantee you it does not. As a male PTA leader, I can look around the PTA leadership and it's very rare to see more than one male involved. About half of your community are men. So what is it you can do to make sure your men are also involved? Same thing goes for ethnic groups, religious groups, etc. And I've seen classes, I've seen presentations that last for an hour on this. The real answer, ask. And don't just flippantly say, hey, join. Come up with something and say, we would like you to join our PTA, and you've got certain skills. What skills can you provide that can help us? Find out what they're doing. So just that ask, that is really the biggest way to get men involved, the biggest way to get underrepresented minorities involved, whatever it is. You may have to find somebody who speaks their language to do that ask. I wouldn't be able to go and ask somebody in Spanish to join our PTA. I don't know the language. So I would find somebody I know that speaks it to either teach me how to say that, but then I would have a problem of understanding their answer, or come along with me and say, please join our PTA on our behalf, something like that. You need to, we have 33rd district is pretty diverse. We have PTAs that I've gone to where I go to the meeting and English speakers are the minority. Somebody is translating for me when I'm speaking to them. So you have to think about that. You have to look at religious holidays. You can't sit there and say, oh, we're going to have this, this wonderful event. And that event happens to be on a day where 15% of your school would not be involved because it's a religious holiday. Maybe you want to have an alternative day or have multiple events, things like that. Look at your membership, look at your executive board. How well does it represent all of them? So what, if not, what are you doing to encourage inclusiveness? How are you reaching out? Looking at your teachers, your administrators, are you asking them to join? What benefits do your teachers and administrators get? There's not necessarily a lot for the administrators other than saying that what the PTA is doing in general is better for your school will get better. At the elementary level, what we had for the teachers was we had a program that would reimburse teachers for up to, I believe it was $150 worth of educational expenses if they were a member. So if a teacher joined our PTA, they could submit Lakeshore expense receipts and other receipts, and the treasurer, which was me at one point, would look at those receipts, keep a list, find out how much we have reimbursed them, and do that. So that was a benefit. Just like you can get 100% teacher membership in a second if you tell people that your then $8 membership would be able to get them $150 in reimbursement. Military is another one. We have certain units that do have a large number of military members, and it says grandparents on the chart. Think of grandparents and or guardians. So sometimes it's not moms and dads. Sometimes you've got step families. Sometimes you've got blended families. You've got dual parent, or dual same-sex families, single parent families. You've got foster families. You have to think about all of that. So a successful membership plan. Early and often, you want to start early. Now is the time to get started. The multiple touch points, basically that's your social media, that's email, that's telephone, in person once we get to that point. Paper letters, I don't know whether you're going to have budgets to send mail out to people, whatever you do, something like that. Once the kids are back in some sort of a class session, I believe everybody in 33rd District, we're all in LA County, which means we have to start school online. But teachers should have daily interaction now with their students. It's not going to be like it was in the crisis response last year. I expect in every school, kids will be having some sort of face-to-face with their teachers every day. So if you can get your teachers involved early and have them remind kids to have their parents go off and join, and again, that's where you have to make it easy for them to do it. Your teachers might have to do it. I don't know if they do an email or it's an online for their lesson plan for the week. Usually teachers will be contacting kids on a weekly basis to say, this is what you should be doing for the week. Part of that could be, don't forget to join the PTA. You can still have your membership contests of which classroom gets to 100% membership first, or have all your classrooms at 100%, or have your teachers on board, whatever it is. You can still do that online. It's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a little bit harder. You can still do that. Again, as I said, find bilingual board members or parents to help you with that outreach. One-to-one outreach works. It's that ask. It's, I can get a lot of emails saying, hey, you should join my PTA, and I can ignore them. But it's really hard to have that one person who's staring at you and talking to you and saying, here's an envelope, would you like to join? Or here's a QR code, scan this with your phone. Look what happens. Look at that. Oh, see, all you have to do is hit the button like 3 times and you'll be a member. Students, parents of special needs students, that's another group that's also often underrepresented in our schools. And last year's membership roster, because their members last year. Do that. But also look at maybe your leader rosters from previous years. Maybe you can find somebody who was your unit president 10 years ago, maybe even further back. I find it's interesting that you can get in communities where people stay in their community for a long time, that you can reach out to people that were students at that school 20 years ago saying, oh yeah, I'll join because it's my school that I was there before. More on the successful membership plan. And
sí, no, yo creo que sí, pues son delgaditos, no, es grueso, si no se reseca bien feo.
you have a translation of that? I wasn't sure if that was a question or not, or just background noise. Interrupt me.
Give me your instructions.
Okay.
Oh.
Interrupt me if it is indeed a question. More things on your membership plan. If you've got a boost, athletic boosters, if you've got an ed foundation, your student ASB, your teams, etc., they're going to be struggling this year. But if they're struggling and you're struggling, work together. Find out how you can coordinate that. I've talked about tracking and reporting, targeting people that haven't signed up previously, publicly posting progress. Whether you do it with one of those thermometers or anything like that, it's really good to have something where you say, we've got our goal. Our goal is whatever that number is, and how far along we're getting to the goal. We've surpassed the goal. Whatever you're doing, you can thank the teachers. It's like it's sort of the fear of missing out, the FOMO that they talk about. If all of a sudden you've got all these classrooms and teachers being thanked, they've made 100%, they've made 100%, they've made 100%. Somebody else is like, oh, hey, wait, what about me? I want to get there too. Obviously, one big thing used to be the events. It's really hard to have events. You're not going to have an ice cream social. You're not going to have a potluck or an ice cream party for quite a while. So think about what else you can do, like Michael was saying, an online event, an online talent show. You can do a talent show over Zoom, just like this, where you coordinate it, you figure out, you have somebody perform. I've seen that over the summer. The high schools brought in the alumni to do performances. They brought everybody in and they had them actually record and submit it. And then one person went through and popped it in and said, okay, here's our first performance, here's our second performance. They did it that way because kids you can record the kids on your cell phone, submit it to one person who then just says, here's our talent show, and they just stream it out. So think about things you can do there. Your elevator pitch. This is something that, came from business. It was, you get into an elevator on the ground floor with Warren Buffett, and you've got 30 seconds to sell your business idea and sell them on it. It's the same thing. You walk up to somebody and you've got those 30 seconds. So it's sort of a formula. I would like you to join the PTA because, and this is something you brainstorm with your board. What are the reasons why we think people should join the PTA? It helps the school, helps all children. You get to be involved in your child's education. You're better informed of what's going on in the school, whatever works. It benefits you because, and give them one of those things, and then have examples. So, PTA provides hands-on art. It provides field trips, things like that. So what I could create out of what I've got is I could see somebody, and this is something you memorize or do your best to memorize. My elevator pitch would be, for example, join PTA because it helps the school and it helps all the children. It allows you to be involved in your child's education, and it also helps you stay informed of what's going on at the school. Without PTA, our kids would not have art, field trips, and our yearly carnival, things like that. Because again, what is the value? First the ask. You have to remember you got that ask. The ask, what's in it for them, how else it can benefit them, and then what happens if we're not here. So think about that. Use this chart to create something on your own. I feel like I'm taking a long time to get through everything, and I don't want to run out of time necessarily. I believe that this was slated for 1 hour and 15 minutes, and I've got a bunch more to go. So I may speed through certain things, but interrupt me if I need to go back. Your membership plan, this is what you're going to do throughout the year. If you had a magazine, beginning of the year, they've got a monthly plan. They know what they're doing January, February, March, April, May, etc. They know their plan every month ahead of time. They don't show up and say, oh, geez, it's July 23rd. What am I going to do for August? I don't know. It's too late. If it's planned ahead, it makes it so much easier. So what is it going to do? September, October, etc. So membership is a year-long campaign. Used to be you'd have that PTA table. We may not have that. Maybe you have a membership bulletin board on your website or a membership area for Facebook, something like that. Maybe you have to do your own membership Instagram, or you make sure your Instagram account every Monday. We like to do membership Mondays. Every Monday you're doing membership posts, membership ideas. You want to regularly communicate your goals, your programs, activities, so members and potential members know what you're doing. So we want members, not the dues. The membership is what's important. Start with your PTAs doing for the students. What programs do you put on, support, sponsor, etc. Big thing is field trips, because the buses weren't affordable. Well, maybe you're doing a virtual field trip. What are you doing there? So who can join the PTA? This is, I believe, from our toolkit quoted out, but it's any individual who subscribes to the purposes and basic policies of PTA becomes a member upon payment. One dues payment equals one card equals one vote. However, as I said before, if one person joined for everybody in their family, including their pets, if they're in a meeting, It's one person equals one vote at the meeting. So there is no, I've got 4 membership cards in my hand, therefore I get 4 votes. Can children join the PTA? Yes, of course. Can the children vote? If the child can make that choice and do the vote, generally children voting is only an issue when you have a written ballot. If the child can write on the ballot and write that person's name down, then yes, I would say that child can vote. You can talk to your parliamentarian, that can become a sort of an issue, but in my book, it's always been if the person is present, is a member, and has the capability to cast the vote, then they can do it. So a baby in arms, they're not voting. You can't sit there and raise their hand or say, well, when they make a noise, that's a yes. It's, they can't do that. But you know, you could have an 8-year-old who's able to sit there and write out somebody's name and vote if they're a member. PTA versus PTSA, the S is more in the leadership side of it. The PTSA means you want to have students as leaders. It doesn't mean the students can only be members once you're a PTSA. You can have students that are members at the elementary school. So I'm going to talk a little bit here about getting set up on Totem, but I'm going to skip through this a little bit more quickly because most of this is, if you can follow that link, and this is in your charts, so you can write it down and you can do it later. If you're not on Totem and you need help, contact me. So make sure that, you know, I'm available. I will do a Zoom screen share and I will help people get set up on Totem. I've been through it a number of times. I can help you directly there. It's just 5 steps. It's pretty quick. If you have your president and your treasurer and they each know what the bank account information is, you can really literally be set up in 5 minutes. And I need to click physically. All right. Updating the leaders is important on Totem. Hopefully you've all had your elections. I know that you all haven't. So those of you that have had your election, somebody who is a leader on Totem or somebody who is a leader above them, which would be your council leaders and your district leaders like me, they can invite leaders. So if you are already a leader there, great. Figure out who the new people are that want to be part of it. It should be, I would think your president, your treasurer, and your membership chair should be. But if you've got a communications or PR person, I think it'd be smart to have them there. If your auditor wants to be watching things, that they could be there. But if somebody does not want to take part, don't invite them. But invite your next year's leaders, deactivate your old leaders. Those links talk about how to do it, but it's really simple, takes only seconds. But if nobody currently on your board is a leader and you need to be set up, you let me know, you let your council leaders know, they can invite you so that you can then set up the rest of your board. And then finally, this is the part of the electronic side that really makes things easier. There's a message center. You can use that message center to contact your leaders, remind members to rejoin. So people who aren't currently members, you can segregate your lists so you can send that to them. And it has multi-language support. Outside of Totem, like we talked about, your own email lists, phone lists, social media, and your school communications. All right, your budget. Per your toolkit, membership is not supposed to be a fundraising vehicle. Therefore, it's very important your school unit dues are reasonable so that it invites more members to join. Membership numbers are more important than the dollars. Many units reinvest their membership dollars back into membership in order to offer various incentives to entice people to join. The next thing is collecting dues and remitting the per capita. Now, it's 100% up to you how you do it. But what you have to do is you have to be systematic and know what you're doing so you can track your membership. So if you're using envelopes, if you're using Totem, you're using forms, you're doing it by email, you're doing it by whatever works for you, all avenues. Totem is just one arrow in your quiver. You're going to have lots of ways of doing it. You don't have to use our PTA envelopes. If you've got your own form that you use, whatever works, do that. But again, you have to keep track and you have to maintain your good records. But if you like the PTA envelopes that we have at State PTA, they're relatively affordable. And I know that in our district office, we have thousands and thousands of them. So if you need them, you can buy them. The information, you can talk to your council if you need to know how much it costs and how to do it. But whatever you use, whether it be check, PayPal, electronic membership, whatever it is, make it easy, use multiple methods, and keep good records. Keeping records is important. Number of times this year, we had units that their records didn't match our records, or their numbers didn't match our numbers. So we had to go back to their paper records and look at what it is. Your bylaws specify the exact amount of dues to be sent forward. So you need to make sure you pay attention to that, work with your treasurer, make sure your treasurer is sending it to the council or the district. If not in council, always do it often. Find out when your council meetings are, or the district if you're not in council, so that you have a check to your president that they're going to be bringing to the council prior to that council meeting. If you say, I'm going to write checks on Friday, but they're going to their meeting on Thursday, it doesn't do you any good. Make sure that that check is written the week before. It doesn't matter if you've got the last 5 days worth of memberships. What's important is that they're doing it regularly and submitting that regularly. Don't just say, well, we got our membership numbers here, I'm going to hold it all till it's a bigger number and wait 2 months. You want to do it at least every month. And I would love to see membership. I've got part of my incentives that haven't come out yet. Submitting every month is important. So there's goals, there's reasons to submit every month. Part of that is it's top of mind. It's got you doing that. PTA, we use some acronym called NGS for not in good standing. You want to be in good standing. I haven't looked at the final numbers for today, but we've got dozens of units that are already in good standing because they use Totem. There are entire councils. I know that El Segundo Council, every one of their units has more than 30 members. Culver City Council, all but one unit has more than the 15 bare minimum members to stay in good standing already. So this is before any checks have been forwarded or anything like that. And that's the nice thing about electronic membership. If members join, their money goes to the council, the district, and the state automatically. So as soon as you've got your first 15 members, you are in good standing from a membership standpoint. You don't have to worry about that. But for council people, can't stress enough, process the membership in a timely manner. There are these deadlines for awards and recognition that we have, but that good standing is big. We still have units in December that are in warnings that are not on electronic membership and they haven't sent the money forward. They're just sitting on it. Don't sit on it. And the state is usually a stickler. If they say your membership has to be in by October 31st and it shows up on November 1st, it doesn't count. Electronically, it's there, but if you're sending a check for it to count, make sure you do it early. Don't hold off. A lot of the contests that state has are so easy to get that you can just knock it out early. Don't hold it to the last second. And I've talked about the membership list many times. The membership list is, it's how you run your PTA. You have to know who your members are. It's important for voting. It's important for your meetings. It's who's eligible for discounts from promotions if you're going to have local incentives. Google Sheets, Totem, Excel, whatever you do, makes it a lot easier on your leaders when you need to figure out, is somebody really a member? And then membership cards. This is one of your final responsibilities. is making sure everybody who is a member can show it. This is just sort of a sample of a national membership card. Our California membership cards will look a little bit different, but state PTA provides membership cards to you guys. They're distributed through channels, which means a shipment of tens of thousands of cards. Yeah, I don't think it was 100,000, but tens and tens of thousands of cards. Cases showed up in our office. And so we've got those cards so that they can get distributed. Those cards at the district will go to the council levels. So your council membership chairs, assuming you have one, will have those cards and get them to you as a unit leader. How we get those cards to people, we can't physically see them. I'm not exactly sure how you guys want to do that, whether you want to have drop-offs, where you say, well, the cards are going to be available here and just Honor System, go grab your card, pull it out of the envelope that we've left in front of the school. How are you going to do that? But if people want their cards, you should make it so that they have their cards. It's not affordable for you to put them in the mail, because then that's another 50 cents that it's going to cost you for every membership card you're sending out. So, figure out how you can do that. If they're using Totem, you let them know you've got your card electronically. It is valid. You can use that, and they don't need a paper card. There are old school people that really like those paper cards. And even if they join electronically, I've had a couple people say, but I really want that paper card. So you pull out the paper card and you do it. Cards are distributed based on what we think your membership is going to be. If you do really well and you get more members than we thought you were going to get, you may run out of cards. If so, that's a great problem to have. Let us know and we can get you more cards. Again, membership is July 1st to June 30th, but membership is until October 31st. I talked about member perks a little bit earlier. I got all of these logos from the state PTA website. If those perks aren't available now or in the next year, I apologize, because it's as up to date as it is. I'm hoping that the Swank movie licensing is still there. I don't remember if you guys saw the case in the news where PTA got fined for showing a movie. I don't remember if it was California or what state it was in, but it was in the news that a PTA was fined hundreds of dollars for showing Frozen or something like that. If they used the Swank movie licensing, you would still have to pay for the movie, but they would not have been fined for grabbing somebody's DVD and showing it publicly on a screen in a public event, which is what the PTA event is, because it's in a venue and it needs to be licensed if you're going to be showing a movie. I don't know if Legoland is open, but Smart and Final, I expect they're still going to stay a partner with us. I hope this credit union is going to stay with us. LifeTouch, I'm sure they're going to stay with us one way or another. So National also has perks. I believe they've got Hertz Rent-A-Car. So if you're going to drive somewhere because you don't want to fly, you might be able to save way more than a membership on your rental. And then locally, you can find local businesses. If you find a local business that says, have them show me their PTA card and I'm going to give them $1 off on a meal or whatever it is, do that. And at the same time, when you're talking to those businesses, think about this. Michael said before, some of those businesses that have been our perks sponsors have struggled. Maybe that's time to remind your members that some of these businesses that have been our sponsors are also struggling. So keep them in mind. You can't endorse businesses. You have to be very careful. You can't say, Brad is the best realtor in town, buy your house through him. But you can say, we have, some local sponsors that are giving us perks. Don't forget that while they are supporting us, they are also struggling. So remember our local businesses. Some of those businesses may not even be sponsors. in our district, our school district, we have got a list. We've created a list of businesses owned by parents in the schools. And so it's just everything. There's hundreds of businesses listed there so that we can let people know if you're going to go out, here are businesses. And it's got realtors, it's got hairstylists, it's got whatever people that are parents. And it's a great little benefit to have. You could do something like that. And then next, go ahead, Michael.
Just while you have the member perks up there, let me again be the bearer of bad news. Yeah, great. Take that off. That's wonderful. Swink will with us at the start of the year, so the new member perks will probably come out sometime in the next couple weeks. Swank will not be there. Smart and Final will not be there. Is there any other bad news I can deliver? Aquarium of the Sea right now will not be there, but they're not having anyone there right now anyway. It is a very, very sparse member perks that will be coming up in the next few weeks.
All right. Well, that's too bad about Smart and Final and Swank, because they were good value.
Yeah, I agree.
So otherwise, some of the resources, keep watching the state PTA website and the national PTA website for those updates to the member perks as they come out. We still have plans for Membership Monday emails coming out of state PTA. The toolkit actually does have information about membership, running membership campaigns, things like that. And make sure that your local leaders are identified and their contact information is in PTA EZ so that we can include them on the Membership Mondays and things like that. That's another big thing is PTA EZ is how the state PTA knows who your president, treasurer, membership chair, etc., who those people are. Enter as many of those as you can. Don't just do, oh, I'm the president, here's our president and treasurer, or whatever your minimum is for PTA EZ. It is how the state PTA knows who you are. Speaking from my state PTA side, that's big. It is really, really important, and it's not being used enough. So make sure you do that. There's a huge hole right now. If you are not in the PTA EZ update, that's why your district or your council is saying, we need your roster. Get that roster, and whoever is responsible, whether it be the district person or whoever for doing it, get them into PTA EZ. That is important.
If you get the information to Vera Johnson at the office, she will enter it into PTA EZ for you.
Okay, great. There's a service mailing that is being completed up at the state office, I think today, like now. Michael might be able to speak more to that, but I believe that is being done. And when you get that service mailing, as well as everything that you see online, PTA materials can be reprinted by a PTA as long as credit is given to the source.
So yeah, this year's version of that is actually going to be electronic. So if you need a hard copy, please contact Cindy. But you will get a postcard, saying, would you like X, Y, or Z? But this year, for the most part, it is going to be an electronic service mailing. So it'll morph into an electronic service emailing, I guess. Gee, Brad, got any other bad news you want me to deliver while we're at it?
Let's see. Maybe on my next slide, which is the last slide, pretty much. It's it can get daunting at times. A lot of you are new, and you're kind of like, oh, I didn't realize I had to do all of that. It's like, oh yeah, membership, I can do that because I just got to go ask a few people, and it just works. And all of a sudden it's like, wow, that's more than I thought. So it's just like eating an elephant, one bite at a time. You start slowly. We're here to help you. There's a lot of people in leadership at the levels above you, with your peers, your schools around you, that are happy to help. Specifically, You've got my name. You've got my 33rd District email address right there, PTA 33rd membership at gmail.com. So that's PTA 33RD membership at gmail.com. You reach out to me and say, I'm confused about what I'm supposed to do for this membership list or membership marketing or setting up Totem. Can you help me? I've done a number of Zoom sessions with units and councils to help them through some things for Zoom or for Totem, and happy to do what I can to help out there. Generally what I do is I've added myself as a leader at your unit or council so that I can be right in the Totem area, and I can go through and I say, all right, this is where you're at, because I can get extra visibility and I can help walk them through that. Do it all on Zoom. We screen share. Both of us get stuff done. And if they want to, they can then disable me as leader. So remember that leadership thing, just because I can add myself doesn't mean you can't take me out once you're done with me sort of being your other leader, because I give myself the title as other or whatever, at your unit to help you get set up. And basically, I'm going to leave this slide up. My real last slide is questions, but we've been asking questions all along, but I want to leave that slide up so people can, if they need to, continue to write stuff down. I am 3 minutes over my time anyhow. So,
Brad, here I go interrupting again real quick, but I did want to point out something that was brought up earlier, and I know I asked someone to email me, and I'll definitely respond to the email as well, but this really is, again, I hate to be the bearer of the bad news because it's really not what I normally do, but I do understand this is going to be a very different membership year for us, and a lot of our schools are in different situations. Some of our schools are still having the ability to do X, Y, or Z, while others aren't. Some of our schools, the principals are saying, you know what, we're not really going to focus on this part right now, or maybe not at all this year. So you really have to figure out what's going to work for you and do the best you can. If you think that your community right now is really not ready to hear your usual beginning of the school year membership campaign pitch, that's okay. There is a certain number of members you need to have to be a unit in good standing, which is 15. We encourage you to get a lot more. If for some reason you think you're going to struggle to get at least 15 members by, let's say, sometime in late October, November, please email me. Let me know what's going on. Let me know what I can do to help. And again, you may have to push back the start of your membership campaign this year. And in some cases, this may be a year where you say, you know what, because of circumstances, we're just going to have to do the best we can. And the best we can do right now is just keep things afloat. Maybe this year we're just going to focus on being a really great vehicle to communicate to our parents about what's going on with our school or our school district. And, I am never the person to tell you not to go out and set incredible records for your membership campaigns. But this year, again, you know your community best. It's also a chance for you to go back and examine your membership dues. Maybe if this is a year where you're not really going to do a lot, you start the year and you have to say, we're probably going to shoot for the minimum, but our parents are hurting right now. So maybe this is the year we go and actually lower our membership dues because we may not be doing as much for our members. And you really need to think about what programs or what information you're supposed to provide to your families and whether it makes sense to continue charging X, Y, and Z. So again, like Brad said, all of us are here to help you. Brad's email address is up there. Cindy's real easy to reach. Those are great resources to go to. I just happen to be the California State PTA VP of Membership, but this is my home. You guys are my family. This is where, I still live. So please, if you need any help, reach out to me as well. My email address is mmorgan@capta.org. Got a lot of emails these days, so I'm not responding as quickly as normal, but we really are here to help you. So please don't hesitate to reach out and contact us. All right, Brad, I'm through.
All right. And, like Michael was saying, school's going to be different. I would not be surprised if most districts have a policy that says no volunteers on campus when they do reopen. So no one other than staff. They don't want to deal with health checks and other people coming on campus. But I don't think that that means you as a PTA leader can't go on campus and get your mail, get your checkbook, things like that. So if you have, we still do have some units that I've heard of where they have not been on campus since March and they didn't grab their checkbook. They didn't grab some of their stuff before they're done. If you work out with the principal and say, I don't need to be on campus all day. I need to go to the office or get something out of our drawer, because some PTAs just have a drawer somewhere and some of them have offices, whatever. I need to get X, Y, Z. That's it. It should work. It shouldn't be a problem that, the rule of no outsiders on campus is really to say, we're not going to have watchdogs. We're not going to have parents coming on just to, hang out and do things and help out. We're trying to really minimize the outsiders on campus, but it's not a hard and fast, none shall pass situation. If you do run into problems, work it up the chain. You don't want to be, if you're the president of your unit and your principal seems to be saying, nope, absolutely not, can't come on campus, you can't get your checkbook, you can't get your mail, whatever it is that just seems unreasonable. It's not for you to argue that. Work it up. Talk to your council and say, can I have somebody council assist? Can I have, and if council can't do it, maybe it has to go up to district, whatever it is. You want to keep that relationship as positive as possible with your principal. So, let me be the bad guy. Let somebody else be the bad guy that goes in and says, look, this is all they want to do. Please let them do it. Let me argue with them, not have you be arguing with them. So remember that you're the sort of big difference between PTA and PT other. PTA other, you're stuck. Something's not working on your school site. There's nobody to help you resolve it. We've got lots and lots of people to help support. They've got ideas. We've been through it before. It's rare that something happens at a PTA that by the time you talk to enough people, it's like, oh yeah, we've seen that. That's happened. Being locked out without being able to get access to your checkbook. That was, I think, a new one for me, but it won't be anymore. Do we have any other questions that have popped up? I don't see any. So I think I will let people go home. Actually, you're probably all at home. I'm probably the only one that's not home right now. So I will let myself go home. Thank you guys very much for taking time out of your evening to come and listen to me while I stare at a screen, not seeing your faces. I really, really hate that part of this. I really, really wish that, there, I can see, at least now I can sort of see faces. I really wish that I could have been there and, interacted with you guys and let you guys interrupt me, and we could have done some sharing. The fun things about this is, I can let you guys share, and sometimes people have great ideas that pop up in these meetings, and I sit there for 5 minutes and stare while you guys go back and forth and share really wonderful ideas. I really, really miss that, and I'm hoping that the next time that we are doing one of these trainings, we have the ability to do it in person. Maybe I have to be wearing my mask, and we're all wearing masks and we do the training like this, but I'd be willing to do that. If we can find a safe way for us to meet and do training where we're in person, I really, really, really look forward to that. And unless Michael or Michelle or anybody else, Cindy has anything else they would like to say, I guess I can actually end this with just sort of a final thank. I will look through the chats as well, see what was answered and what wasn't answered. Hopefully, we've got answers for everybody. I've saved the chat now, so I now have everything. Have a really great night and a successful, sorry about the noise, a successful membership campaign, whatever success means to you. All righty, bye all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.